An attorney general targets conservative groups in a racketeering lawsuit aimed at climate change skeptics. Captured documents indicate that we don't really know who's fighting who in Syria. And another shot fired in the war on cash. This is SkyWatch TV for Thursday, May 5th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. First up, a U.S. Navy SEAL died in combat in northern Iraq Tuesday. He's identified as Charlie Keating IV, grandson of Charles Keating Jr. If his name is familiar, you might remember him from the savings and loans scandal of the 1980s, a scandal that took down 5 U.S. senators. The younger Keating was killed when ISIS soldiers overran a Kurdish position near the town of Tel Askaf. That's less than 20 miles from Mosul, which is the Islamic State's de facto capital in Iraq, where at the moment the Islamic State is trying to impose an information blackout. They're removing satellite dishes from houses in the city, trying to keep people there from receiving news by television, news of an impending invasion by Kurdish forces, Shiite militia backed by U.S. soldiers. This could prevent, from the view of the Islamic State, could prevent an uprising of people in the city, or could just keep people in the city, keep them from fleeing, which would make them useful, possibly, as human shields when the attack finally does come. Now, a disturbing story broadcast on Sky News in Britain last night. A stash of about 22,000 documents obtained by Sky News from ISIS defectors last month indicates that the group has regular and ongoing contact with the government of Bashar al-Assad, negotiating deals, for example, to trade oil for fertilizer, deal to withdraw from the city of Palmyra before government forces attacked, a deal in which Islamic State soldiers were allowed to withdraw from an area before an airstrike. One of the terrorism experts interviewed by Sky News said that arguably this is one of the most difficult wars to make sense of that he's ever seen. The documents also show that ISIS has been training foreign fighters for attacks on Western countries for a lot longer than terrorism experts thought, and that a program of coordinated terror attacks against the West was one of the original building blocks of the Islamic State. It's not a surprise if you've been a longtime watcher of this program. We've been telling you for months that the Islamic State's goal is to provoke a climactic battle against the forces of Christendom, against the West, at the town of Dabiq. This is to fulfill a prophecy that they believe spoken by the Prophet Muhammad, that a battle will occur at this town of Dabiq, north of Aleppo, at which Isa, their Jesus, will appear, lead them to victory, and then on to glorious, victorious global jihad. Now, this collaboration between the Islamic State and the government of Bashar al-Assad might be the reason that Vladimir Putin is reportedly now ready to consider removing Assad as part of a peace deal. According to the Israeli website Debka File, negotiations between the U.S. and Russia have reached a point where Russia is willing to consider a future in which Bashar al-Assad and his inner circle play no part. Discussions with Syrian rebel groups are now underway at a military base near Amman, Jordan. Police in Kenya say they foiled a large-scale biological attack using anthrax by a terror group linked to ISIS. A man, his wife, and another woman have been arrested. Rewards have been issued for the capture of 2 other men. ISIS has reportedly threatened Hamas again. An audio recording claiming that victory in Palestine is very near, not only over the Jews, but over all traitors and rebels. That would be Hamas. In an additional announcement, the leaders of Hamas were called cowards and rabbits, and that Gaza would soon be liberated from them. You might remember about 6 months ago, a video released by the Islamic State accused Palestinian leaders in Gaza and the West Bank of distorting Islam and preventing the spread of the Islamic State in their territory. Israeli tanks opened fire Wednesday on the Gaza Strip after an explosion on the Palestinian side of the border. The Israeli army still trying to determine the cause of that explosion. Earlier in the day, a mortar shell was fired from southern Gaza Strip at Israeli positions inside Israel. One of the journals I read on a regular basis to try to stay informed is Foreign Policy. And I know it has a globalist worldview, but you learn things. There was an article this morning that I thought was worth talking about. The title is, I think, worth asking, a question worth asking. Why is America so bad at promoting democracy in other countries? Now, this is written by a Harvard professor, a learned gentleman who knows mostly whereof he speaks, he's specifically referring to the situations, our recent adventures, if you will, in nation building in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen. None of those nations currently could be described as a functioning nation state. The author gets some things right. For example, there are obvious difficulties to using military force to promote democracy. Or, for example, the use of force tends to provoke violent resistance to your presence. Besides that, there are unfamiliarities we have as Westerners with local customs, traditions, and especially the one thing that the author of the piece overlooks, which to me is the key factor, and that is religion. Now, the author offers a suggestion that we Americans might have more success at nation building if we served as a better example of a functioning democracy. For example, no Gitmo, no targeted killings, no out-of-control national security agency spying on everybody. And he takes a shot at Donald Trump, said it might also help if our leading politicians weren't loudmouthed, bigoted xenophobes, as if Mr. Trump's personality has any impact on what's happening on the ground in Anbar province. No, it's religion. Religion. The area that he's talking about from Afghanistan to Yemen to Libya has been dominated by a religion for 14 centuries that took those regions at the point of a sword. Now, we in Christendom have a long and sordid history of our own wars, but at the base of our civilization is an understanding that, in the words of William Tecumseh Sherman, war is hell. And the teachings of Jesus do not advocate for war except in certain circumstances. That's outside the scope of this discussion. When you compare and contrast the teachings of Jesus and Muhammad, you find some very striking differences. Jesus taught his disciples to forgive 70 times, 7 times, to turn the other cheek. When spreading the good news, if a place will not hear your message, leave, shake the dust from that village from your sandals as a reproach, and move on. Muhammad, on the other hand, taught his disciples to take the heads of their enemies. It's a basic, fundamental difference. So with all due respect to the learned professor, if you start there with the difference between Christianity and Islam, you might find some useful insights into why it is so difficult for democracy to take root in areas controlled by Muslims. Now, another day, another shot in the war on cash. The European Central Bank has made it official. It's ending production of the 500 euro note by the end of 2018. Now, this may sound like no big deal. That's a pretty big denomination to carry around in your wallet. And after all, Europeans will still have 5, 10s, 20s, 50s, and 100s. But the 500 euro note makes up about 30% of European physical currency in circulation. Now, again, you may ask, so what? Well, that could result in a weakening of the euro, especially against the US dollar. If the currency is in circulation, it's because somebody wants to have the currency in circulation. Something will need to step in to fill the void after 2018 when the 500 euros are taken out of circulation, and the dollar is the leading candidate. So a strong dollar is good, right? No, not really. Not if you're trying to export anything like grain or beef or pork or manufactured goods. A strong dollar means it takes more euros or yen or yuan to buy American goods. Throws our trade deficit further into the red. Now, the other possible consequence of this is that the Federal Reserve Bank might, in retaliation, decide to pull the $100 bill out of circulation. And we're already hearing calls for this from leading bankers and economists. Ban the Benjamin. The only people who carry high denomination bills are tax cheats, drug lords, corrupt politicians, and terrorists. Or so we're told. But banning the Benjamin would take 78% of physical U.S. currency out of circulation. But it'll be sold to us as a step toward eliminating tax cheats, corruption, and illegal drug trade. Now, this fits as another piece in the puzzle with the story I brought to you yesterday about Wall Street and some high-powered corporate executives meeting to discuss how to develop an electronic currency based on blockchain technology. Again, eliminating physical cash would make us dependent on banks forevermore, because they would be tasked with tracking our net worth. We would be issued debit cards tied to our account, held wherever, and we would never be free of the bank, which would free the banks, and this is something I should have mentioned yesterday, free the banks to pursue a policy of negative interest rates. They're being experimented with, negative rates, for money on deposit in those banks and some European banks as a way of encouraging people to spend more. With physical cash, if a bank says, we're going to start charging you to hold your deposit, to keep money in your checking account, we're going to charge you for the privilege. We could just go to the bank and take the money out, but not if it's digital. With physical cash, bank drops interest rates into the negative territory, you can store it in a coffee can. You can't do that with bits and bytes. Banks could basically turn our savings accounts and checking accounts into another form of taxation. And of course, they would be able to track and control everything that we buy and sell. Get ready for your mark. The Attorney General of the Virgin Islands has singled out ExxonMobil and is targeting dozens of conservative and libertarian groups in a racketeering lawsuit aimed at climate change skeptics. In a subpoena issued in March, Claude Walker, the Attorney General of the U.S. Virgin Islands, demanded from ExxonMobil copies of communications between the oil company and 90 different political and policy organizations, and any other organizations engaged in research or advocacy opposing climate change policies. Now, this is part of a national coordinated legal campaign by state attorneys general and liberal advocacy groups to use the legal system to punish those who disagree with the Democratic Party's position on climate change. Groups targeted by the subpoena include the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, the Federalist Society, the Hoover Institution, the Reason Foundation, and others. This effort reportedly headed by New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, who is consulting and cooperating with progressive groups who met at a strategy session January 8th at the offices of the Rockefeller Family Fund. The meeting's agenda: to delegitimize ExxonMobil as a political entity, to force government officials to disassociate themselves from ExxonMobil, and to encourage divestment from ExxonMobil. Now, some legal experts who've looked at the subpoena say that Walker's tactic may not be legal. University of Tennessee law professor Glenn Reynolds, you might know him on the internet as the Insta Pundit, wrote that it appears to be a scheme to restrict the First Amendment free speech rights of people they don't agree with. No surprise there, that's a common tactic for progressives. Now, the irony of all this is that new research shows that extra carbon dioxide that we humans are putting into the atmosphere is causing a green explosion across the planet. Satellite data over the last 33 years shows a persistent and widespread increase in the growing season of plants. Researchers find that the extra green is equivalent to adding a green continent twice the size of the United States to planet Earth. It's almost 7 million square miles more covered by plants than 3 decades ago. Again, carbon dioxide, plant food. So, to the groups targeting ExxonMobil and the other conservative and libertarian groups, I say, why are you hating on plants? And finally, an unusual court ruling in Italy. The highest court of appeals there ruled that stealing food isn't a crime if you're hungry. Judges overturned the conviction last year of a homeless man named Roman Austriakov. He stole cheese and sausages worth about $4.50 from a supermarket in 2011. He was convicted of theft, sentenced to 6 months in jail, and fined €100. But the appeals court said the homeless man had taken the food in the face of immediate and essential need for nourishment, and therefore it was not a crime. Now, I understand the concept of mercy, but declaring that the theft of food isn't a crime in an emergency is opening a door that I think the court is going to wish that it hadn't down the road. I predict there will be a rush of people showing up at supermarkets who suddenly develop immediate and essential needs for nourishment. This week on SkyWatch TV, we take a look at pre-flood civilizations and evidence for it, and specifically why the Vatican appears to be engaged in a cover-up of that evidence. It's the beginning of a 5-part series related to the forthcoming book, The Final Roman Emperor, the Islamic Antichrist, and the Vatican's Last Crusade. Steve Quayle is our guest. He's talking about his new documentary film, True Legends, The Unholy See. You can see that program Saturday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. Central Time on the Victory Television Network. That's down in Arkansas and around Memphis. And coast to coast at 7:30 p.m. Saturday night on the Christian Television Network. For a complete listing of dates and times where you can view SkyWatch TV, log on to skywatchtv.com and then click the link in the top menu bar that says Channel Listing. The program is available now, however, for you to view at your convenience at the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku. Roku, of course, is the set-top box connected to the internet. Watch our programs, all of our programs, at your convenience. The weekly program plus Into the Multiverse, Sci Friday, and these daily news updates. Also, SkyWatch Women, hosted by my best friend, my wife, Sharon Gilbert. If you haven't added the SkyWatch TV channel to your account yet, and you need instructions on how to do it, log on to skywatchtv.com/Roku. We've got the SkyWatch TV podcast back in the iTunes store. So it's easy to subscribe now without having to cut and paste long, complicated web addresses. If you have iTunes on your computer, and you probably do, log into the iTunes store, search for SkyWatch TV. The one that is most recently updated, because there are 2 feeds in there now, but one hasn't been updated as we switched providers for the hosting. But you'll find it. The one that's updated most recently, click subscribe, and the audio versions of all of our programs will be downloaded automatically to your computer. Transfer them to a smartphone, MP3 player, or tablet to take with you wherever you go. The Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference coming up in mid-July. 32 messages, 25 speakers, all on your computer screen, or if you get it plugged into your TV, right there on your television screen. Live video streaming, once again, a part of the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference. For the packages, information, and to sign up, log on to prophecywatchers.com. We thank you for your support. We depend on it, and so we always send a thank you for your gift. During the month of May, it's related to Mother's Day. For your donation of $20 or more to SkyWatch TV, you'll receive a beautiful journal for your mother, 2 useful books, Favorite Family Meals, and Survive the Unthinkable, A Woman's Guide to Preparedness, and a mug, beautiful mug for mom's tea or coffee. All of that we will send to you for your gift of $20 or more during the month of May. Log on to skywatchtv.com/donate to give. And of course, you can help us just by clicking your mouse. Click the little button that says like or share, especially at YouTube. Click the button that says subscribe. And of course, you'll find my stuff on the internet here, Facebook, Twitter, my website, and my email address for your comments, questions, suggestions, and occasional corrections. dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV. Save nearly half off the cover price when you subscribe now to the brand new SkyWatch TV magazine. For a limited time from April 24th through June 24th, 60 days only, a 5-year subscription to SkyWatch TV magazine is just $99. That's more than $75 off the cover price, which is like getting 2 years for free. Exclusive content, articles on prophecy, discovery, and the supernatural from Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Josh Peck, science updates from Sharon K. Gilbert, geopolitics from yours truly, and guest writers like Pulitzer Prize-nominated journalist Troy Anderson, renowned Bible scholar Dr. Michael Heiser, Pentagon advisor Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, and more. But there is more. As an early subscriber, you'll be the first to get this new book from Defender Publishing. I predict what 12 global experts believe you'll see by 2025. This is a $20 value and includes best-selling authors like Joel Richardson, Mark Biltz, Carl Gallups, Tom Horn, Paul McGuire, and more. Find out what they think about the coming war between ISIS and the Vatican, the future of the Temple Mount and the Ark of the Covenant, a worldwide manifestation of angels, and the coming age of human hybrids. And we'll also add this DVD, The Best of SkyWatch TV 2015, a $25 value, including our most compelling interviews from last year, including Chuck Missler, Steve Quayle, the discussion of the Georgia Guidestones with Chris Pinto, and more. All of this together worth more than $200. Yours now for just $99, but only through June 24th. Subscribe now. SkyWatch TV magazine. Just call the number on your screen or log on to skywatchtvstore.com.